Hello, everybody, and welcome to a bonus edition of Fantasy NBA Today, the Bruski Breakdown 30-team extravaganza sports ethos presentation presented by our great partners at FanDuel. Hey, guys, week 4. It's in the books. We're 15% of the way through the season. For our new listeners who may not know, what you're going to hear is the result of literally round-the-clock analysis that takes place between Friday, kind of like Friday night, and now really, where I basically study the entire league and I give you guys the most distilled, highest value fantasy analyst you're probably ever going to find, because who the hell is crazy enough to do this? Just me. Let me know if there's anybody crazy out there like me. But we got to do this so we can make all of our high stakes plays at the highest levels. I mean, we're competing. This is my Super Bowl. This is my competitive outlet, and I will not participate in this activity unless we are competing as if we were in like the NBA or something. And so that's how I roll. And this season's been great. I get to dump this out for you guys. I actually dumped a lot of the analysis out onto our Discord server for our premium members last night. So if you haven't gotten into the Discord, head on over to sportsethos.com. There's a link for our Discord. You basically follow instructions there and you'll get set up. We have both the free side, where a lot of our analysts are in there talking all the time, giving you guys free advice. Check that out. But for our premium members, we have more focused advice, and we dump things like this in there all the time. So the document itself is a massive document, and we're literally going through every single team in the league, identifying trends, ads, drops, holds, buy lows, sell highs, you name it. Basically, we're going to figure it out for you guys. And the way I set this show up is I'm going to start with the weekend action. I'll finish up with the games tonight. And so if there's a team that doesn't play tonight or didn't play on Sunday, we'll kind of start with them and we'll get them out of the way. In fact, we have some teams that actually, no, scratch that. We'll just start with the teams that played Saturday and don't play on Sunday or Monday. And we just kind of work through the entire league, and we don't take any breaks. And I'm also sick as it gets. So you might see me lose my mind at some point in time during the show. That'd be great for everybody involved. I'm sure my kids, when they grow up, they'll be able to watch this moment and say, oh, that was Dad at his best. All right, let's get into Memphis played Cleveland. We actually have some breaking news right now that Ja Morant's going to miss about 2 weeks with right calf soreness. This will probably be met with some eye rolls around the league. Is this related to the drama? Is this an actual injury? I guess at the end of the day, none of that matters. He played just 6 minutes in that game on Saturday before leaving. I think the evaluation with him is really simple. He's a mid to late round player in 8 and 9 cat leagues, respectively. That's when he's on the floor. And being on the floor is really dicey for him right now. In an 8 cat league, are you going to drop Ja Morant? No. In a 9 cat league, are you going to drop Ja Morant? Probably not. I mean, you're probably not worried about turnovers when you drafted him anyway. And who knows, maybe he can't turn the ball over as much in the Thomas Isolo system of movement and rotation that Ja Morant loves so much. The bottom line is you got to kind of hold and see how this plays out, but it's not good. I think at any point in time, if Ja Morant starts doing well, you want to try to offload Ja Morant, but he's your problem now. You drafted him, not me. You did. I'm kidding. But Ja Morant not playing really opens the door for Ty Jerome. And we're going to get a Ty Jerome update here probably within the week, if I had to guess. I've been aggressively recommending holding or stashing Ty Jerome, even though we don't know what the status of this calf injury really is. It seemed like a bad one. The next scheduled update, I believe we are in like day 25 to 28 of a 28-day timetable for news to be released on his calf. So if it gets released during this show, I wouldn't be shocked. But that isn't necessarily a guarantee that he's coming back anytime soon. It could be that he's reached a certain point in his protocol and he's going to have to start doing the long road back to 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, and then back into a practice routine and back on the floor. It could be 4 weeks. We don't know. Scottie Pippen probably returns in that amount of time as well. So you've got 2 players that will be there in a month or so, if I had to guess. And then these 2 guys might take the baton and run the Memphis Grizzlies through the rest of the season. And in the case of Ty Jerome, that could be top 50 potential during that span, hence why the early stash. And you want to probably consider that before news comes out. because the minute that news comes out that he'll be back in, say, a week or 3 weeks even, people are going to start running to the wire for Ty Jerome. Right now, it's shrouded in mystery, as is the rest of this show. We got bad Jaren Jackson from a year ago in his last game, 6 of 23 from the field. He did get you some other stuff, 2 triples, 12 of 14 from the foul line, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. We don't want bad Jaren Jackson, and it's been a bad season for him, and I don't think the buy low is in order here. I think he's got a big name. I don't know if you can get Jaren Jackson for top 75 value, but that would be the starting point for any discussion there. There is early round potential there if it all goes right, but he's going to need the Ty Jeromes of the world. He's going to need everybody playing well and a restriction on his shots. That last part is really key to figure out. If he's going to get this many shots, it's going to be all bad for him in fantasy leagues. And we saw that play out over the last 2 seasons. So keep an eye on that. Cedric Coward started despite right foot soreness, but he played just 24 minutes. Starting and not playing a lot, probably a buzzkill for some folks out there, but it makes perfect sense in this, Memphis, hailstorm, if you will. 10 points, 3 of 8 shooting, 2 threes, 8 boards, 2 assists, 1 block. It's good work. It's not the breakout people wanted, but as this team goes south, Cedric Coward's stock will go north. And the only thing we have to watch out for is the rookie wall and the amount of minutes that he's going to get that he hasn't been accustomed to playing. And also the fact that they might not want to play him through anything like this right foot soreness as the season goes on. So he has a little bit of risk. They're going to probably put him in bubble wrap, I would think, at least a little bit, as he is the future in Memphis and a heck of a player. I would rate him as a top 75 guy going forward and not worry so much about the potential end of season rest that looks like it might be in the cards for Memphis folks. Zach Edey made his season debut. 13 points, 3 of 7 shooting, 7 of 9 from the foul line, 7 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 25 minutes. This qualifies as a great starting line. I think Zach Edey showed us something here. Showed us that he's sort of back and ready to perform. A lot of injury risk. We've seen Zach Edey start well. We've seen Zach Edey have good weeks and then follow him up with bad weeks. We've seen Zach Edey be more of a 150 play in the past, but this is an indicator that late round value is probably at least a 50-50 shot, if not better. And I think Zach Edey needs to be rostered in all fantasy leagues, at least all 12 to 14 team intermediate fantasy leagues. Some of these smaller leagues that are not so competitive, guys like Edey don't actually make the cut. But in most leagues, I think somebody's got to take a chance on Zach Edey, and it could easily be you. Jock Landale did take the hit with 5 points, 5 boards, and 1 steals. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to hold on to Jock Landale. I'm going to tell you to drop Jock Landale. But if somehow Edey isn't consistent or the injury bug hits or whatever happens in Memphis, if Landale was able to get you top 150 value from here until the end of the season, it would not shock me. Now, Vince Williams Jr. did show up in this last game, 8 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, and 2 steals, and 27 minutes. I'm not excited about Vince Williams Jr. He's got his own injury issues. He could be out of the lineup tomorrow. It wouldn't shock me. Basically just saying he's an injury risk and he's had trouble staying consistent. But you got all this stuff going on and Ja Morant being out for whatever amount of time. It does open up minutes, and Vince Williams has been productive at times in the past in his career before it got derailed by injuries in very deep situations. You're going to kind of want to keep an eye on that. All right, let's get out of this weekend game. Let's get into the Lakers at Milwaukee. Injuries-wise, you got Marcus Smart questionable with an illness for the next game. Rui Hachimura showing up as questionable, and LeBron is returning anytime now. Again, they got 2 games this week, so a very slow week. Luka's cruising top 5. Austin Reeves, top 10 to 15. Are you selling high on Austin Reeves? I'm just going to say no. If you can maybe, sell him for somebody that's top 15 or better with a good situation, maybe it's in play, but we're really splitting hairs with this, folks. Austin Reeves is going to be great. He's going to have whatever injury risk you want to associate with him. Generally kind of been healthy, but it's dealt with some things this year and last year already. So, not exactly winning the games played contests out there. Austin Reeves is going to be just fine. I don't think you want to move on from Austin Reeves. DeAndre Ayton performing right where you would expect him to perform in the top 70 to 90 range. That's good. Marcus Smart had a massive game last week. It pushed him into a 100 to 125 value on the season in 8 and 9 cat leagues, respectively. With LeBron coming back, I think that's enough to take Marcus Smart in any sort of long-term value discussion and sort of shelve it for a little bit. Same with Rui Hachimura as a top 125 performer. Jake LaRavia, top 160 on the season. I really think that Luka's early season, I don't know what's, if it's like a planned thing or not, but maybe, with all of the stuff that's gone on, he's been more interested in producing rather than less interested in producing. And it's had the associated impacts on the box score. And that with LeBron, with Austin Reeves, is going to push all these guys out. Not so much surprising stuff in Lakerland, but let's move it along to the Clippers at Boston from over the weekend. This is Sunday action, so we just saw this stuff yesterday. No injuries of note so far for Boston. That's fun. Jaylen Brown actually shooting 50% from the field on the year, 21 attempts per game. This is actually rather amazing, but we're starting to see things move the other direction for him. Just 44.8% on the field over the last 3 games, 70% from the foul line on big volume for both of these things. This entire Boston team is struggling from the field, and it's really been the Jaylen Brown show. So Jaylen Brown can get his in these circumstances, but he can't help everybody get theirs. And he probably can't even get his at this rate. And his season-long ranks and all these things look fairly good, depending on what you're punting. And it's been, by and large, a good start for Jaylen Brown. But he's got a 5% shooting bump this season, and he's doing it on more volume. And again, when the entire team isn't shooting well and Jaylen Brown is shooting well, it seems more likely that Jaylen Brown's going to see that efficiency go way down, and hopefully the rest of his team will see that efficiency go way up. So I would be selling high on Jaylen Brown in most circumstances, just in general, but especially right now. So get out there and make that happen and send me the deal that you got done for it. Peyton Pritchard finally out of the doghouse this week with top 35 to 60 numbers, 8 and 9 cat, probably 9 and 8 cat, got that flipped. 31 minutes, 20 points, almost 5 threes, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. This is the guy that you thought you were drafting. I think he's probably a late mid-round guy in this Boston scenario. He really needs this team to gel so he can kind of just do what he does. And he's been overthinking it on top of it. So a lot working against him right now. I wouldn't get out too far ahead on a buy low because, again, I think the overall issues this team faces is they're not good enough just in general. And Joe Mazzulla is tinkering, perhaps because he's playing with house money, perhaps because he's not so concerned with winning this season. Perhaps they're not chasing the playoffs. Perhaps all this Jason Tatum standing around the court and saying he's going to play at some point in time. Perhaps it's all just Jason Tatum gets to say whatever he wants and nobody cares because everybody knows he's not going to play and they're just going to tank this season away. Anyway, I thought Boston would be good enough to compete, and they probably still are. But these kinds of teams and players on these teams that are big fantasy names like Peyton Pritchard heading into drafts, the problem and the risk is if this team no longer cares about winning and or they have troubles being efficient, which has been the story with them, things can go south really quick. And therefore, Peyton Pritchard might be a little bit overdrafted this season. I was as high on him as a player as anybody. I just couldn't get him in drafts because people were going much earlier on him than I was willing to go. Let's talk Neemias Queta real quick, cruising at top 100 levels, doing just fine, looking like a B150 win there. Happy about that. Josh Minott absolutely torpedoed the last 2 weeks, just top 150 to 180 value on the season. 19 minutes per game over the last 7 contests. Jordan Walsh getting the starts, getting the minutes. Walsh with 25 minutes per game over his last 6 contests, barely late round value. I don't think this is a Jordan Walsh conversation. It's Josh Minott. As I said in the earlier show, I just think you got to slide the sliders over to this guy's target good scenario value right now at this stage of the season. The next month or two is late round value. Is there upside beyond that? Sure. But right now, they're teaching him something, and he's not providing separation with other players to keep the lows from being so low. Right now, you're in that chasing zone with Josh Minot, where he has 3 good games. Okay, I want him on my team. I want him in my lineup. Up, here comes the bad games. I had him in my lineup and I got the zeros. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Big fab plays for Josh Minot early in the season. Now he's going to go back to the waiver wire. I'm going to buy him for $2. We'll see if I can do that. But I do believe in Josh Minot. I just think that right now, Missoula is possibly overcoaching, but maybe possibly in the right zone. The devil's in the details there. I'd want to be on the ground in Boston to weigh in on that. But right now, it's not fun from a fantasy perspective for Josh Minot. Anthony Simons, I think, is on the outs there, looking for his next team. I don't know if Boston decides they need him to play better to get better value in a trade. I just think that people are not willing to pay the price for what Anthony Simons brings, which is offense and practically no defense. And he's going to have to work on that. Let's talk about the Sacramento at San Antonio game from Sunday. Injuries-wise, Domantas Sabonis played, but he's banged up with the rib issue. I do think this is impacting his game. I could go into a deeper diatribe about Sabonis and the Kings, but I'm not going to, at least not yet. Devin Carter questionable for the next one with an illness. Now, Zach LaVine got benched in this last game for Dennis Schroeder. This will have all sorts of implications, and there's things going on in the locker room that aren't great. I think they're tuning out Doug a little bit. Zach LaVine's commitment to defense is basically kind of like, I'm here, so I'll play some, but not really. And this is the kind of thing where bad habits don't go away. And if you're a dunk champion, and if you're a 30-point scorer on some nights, and you're at the peak of your game, teams are willing to overlook these defensive issues. But when you slide down and you're just a guy, kind of, a highly paid one at that, and you've got a great offensive game, but it's not really moving the needle. It's not winning games, and you also have these defensive issues. That's when it gets really bad, and it's hard in general for offensive players who can't defend to command in the locker room the respect that they need to command to justify the usage. That's